2023 was a horrendous year for Warner Brothers and DC films. Every single movie that came out completely bombed. The marketing was basically obsolete. I understand a couple of these films had to endure through the writers and the actor strikes. Even then, you do have to wonder how well it would have done if it came out at a different time, considering Warner Brothers was never trying to market these movies in the first place. And then for the final film in the DCEU, Aquaman, to drop and watch this universe go out on a complete whimper. There is a lot of reasons on why Aquaman is suffering the way it is. First of all, I don't think people were really caring for a second Aquaman movie in the way that they did for the first film, because I still say to this day that the first Aquaman film was an anomaly. That movie is just one of those types of situations where you hit a 1 in a million chance on, and it does really damn well. Another reason why is obviously when you have multiple DCEU movies come out before this film that consistently and continuously bomb, what are the chances that your final film of the year is going to be a success? Another reason could be the fan base and general audiences simply being done with DC and their films, because I know a lot of people who don't care about DC movies anymore, especially having them connected in a universe. And once again, when it comes to making money in the box office, a huge chunk of the money comes from general audiences, since they are the bigger community, far bigger than the fan base. You can clearly tell no one's watching these films. Also, what does not help is ever since Zack Snyder left filming of the Justice League for the loss of his daughter, we have had multiple people enter DC and Warner Brothers who had their own vision and their own stories they wanted to tell with the DCEU. That got really confusing, it got really frustrating, and it made everything a complete mess, because still to this day, we don't even know what version or what storyline this DCEU followed. When you give me DC films, superhero films within a connected universe, and particularly tell me this is following a connected universe, or at least trying your best to do so, and the new CEOs James Gunn and Peter Safran come in and say, hey, we're rebooting, our new DCU will start in 2025, this DCEU will come to a close on Aquaman at the end of the year. Why in the world would I now care to watch those movies? I definitely will not go to the theater to pay for those films either. If my purpose is to watch a connected universe, I'm definitely not going to watch these movies anymore. They don't matter. And that's not me saying I will not watch Aquaman 2. I probably will watch it when it comes out to streaming services, and if it's on a streaming service that I already own. I won't go out of my way to find it anywhere else. It's really interesting to be seeing a DC movie and a Marvel movie that have kind of released around the same time in Aquaman and the Marvels, and seeing a DC movie beat out in the box office a Marvel movie. Now, I did make this video just a couple days ago, but the numbers for the box office have been updated. Aquaman 2 currently sits at 258 million worldwide, which definitively does put it ahead of the Marvels. But when you look at the bigger scale of all of this, Aquaman has a huge budget. This still hasn't broke even in any way, and this film has barely made over 10% of what the first film did. I mean, this is going to be what, the 8th DCEU film flop that DC has had over the past couple of years. Black Adam is still more than likely going to retain its title as the highest grossing DCEU film in over 5 years, which is absolutely insane. And it still comes down to this idea that we're now calling superhero films who were just very recently being called a success, making $1 billion, we're now calling $200 or $300 million box office return films successes, even though on average these movies for some reason have over $200 million in budget. So what profit are they really making? None. Now, of course, a big reason why these movies aren't going to be making maybe $1 billion in the box office, or maybe not the way they used to, is because inflation is crazy nowadays. nowadays all over the world. It is absolutely insane. It can be really expensive to go to a movie theater, let alone buy a ticket for a movie. Now, if you want snacks and drinks, that's an arm and a leg. Regardless, though, that does not mean these movies making 1 to 300 million worldwide makes them a success. If you want 1 to 300 million dollar superhero films to be successful, it's now time to start scaling back on these superhero films instead of giving them ridiculous 2 to 250 million dollar budgets that always get reshot 8 months later after filming, which then racks up your budget bill to $280 million, if not more. I mean, if you're someone like me who absolutely hates Warner Brothers, despises the way they run their business and the people running this studio, you probably could have sat here over the past couple of years and have seen the signs on how this company is falling apart. But even if you haven't taken the time to see how bad of a company they are, you do seriously have to question how much their company is hurting right now when their biggest IP in DC has constant failures, especially within movies that try to be part of a connected universe. Batman seems to be the only moneymaker that DC actually has right now. He is the only character that brings in the fan base of DC and the general audience. Take James Gunn, his DCU, all the DCU movies and ideas planned for right now. Take all that away at the moment and think about this for a second. Do we sit here and simply say, oh, you know what? This is just a really bad year for Warner Brothers and DC. The past couple of years have been really messy. It's going to get better from here. Or do you actually have to sit here and say, you know what? Warner Brothers, they don't deserve this brand anymore because they've clearly shown they have no idea what they're doing and they don't know what to do from here. Warner Brothers literally maintains the mentality of, I am there for you at your best, but I will not be there for you at your worst. I understand not wanting to put too much money into marketing your final DCEU film, but not even like a red carpet event for the guys. I mean, Jason Momoa, Patrick Wilson, James Wan, all those guys went through a hard time trying to get this movie made and released, and you literally relied on Twitter to promote this movie for you, in which you can see it did not work. Good or bad, I have not seen any buzz about Aquaman in the fan base, in comic book movie communities, in general audiences. People literally have no care in the world for this movie. So I've been saying for months, I see it. Zaslav's gonna sell this company. This is a guy who just likes money. He's not here for the long haul. He's not gonna do anything to help fix this company. He wants to get rid of it for a big payday. Now, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that actually is not the case, and maybe he will prove me wrong one day. But out of everything we've seen the man do so far, it doesn't really put my assessment to fault in any way. Also, the fact that there have been discussions for the Warner Brothers Paramount merger, which I don't think is going to happen, but I think there's a very good reason for why it's not going to happen. Warner Brothers has just recently entered a 60% chance of bankruptcy. Now, if Warner Brothers was to partner up with Paramount, I believe Warner Brothers would be the controlling side of the deal. Here's what they would be able to manage if this happened: Terminator, Transformers, Mission Impossible, A Quiet Place, Star Trek, Smile, Scream, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Top Gun, Paranormal Activity, The Godfather, G.I. Joe, and Friday the 13th, with probably a couple of other things sprinkled around in there. That sounds really cool. It sounds crazy. Like, whoa, Warner Brothers making some big moves. They're finally back on track. They're going to get so many different IPs they can play around with. And even too, I've seen some people saying that would be really neat seeing Batman team up with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles again, Green Lantern and Star Trek, all that stuff. Although a big reason why I don't think it's going to happen is because I don't think a a lot of people in the Hollywood industry want it to happen. I think there's a big antitrust situation that comes into play here, and also the fact that there's just way too much monopoly nowadays. One company owns way too many things. Zaslav has to keep this company intact the way it is right now, at least until April of next year, so then after he could probably go search out for different opportunities if Paramount doesn't work out. And also, this is just my opinion, this is not a fact or anything, but I don't see Warner Brothers being in the type of position to be controlling anything right now. Even though Warner Brothers is facing some very bad debt and company decisions, I believe Paramount's facing an even more destructive debt, which is really not that good. So they are in dire need of a suitor or a buyer, and I really do not know how Warner Brothers would be the right company to do this. After seeing the culture of Warner Brothers over the past 10 to 15 years, how could any of us sit here and say that the minute they get all these other IPs from Paramount, things will be different? Their culture will change. They won't ruin these IPs the way they've ruined DC. Really, a big problem with this deal is that it wouldn't solve any of Warner Brothers' money problems. It would just be adding on to content, which Warner Brothers has plenty of content on their own as of right now that they don't even use. If it's not DC, it's practically nothing. Warner Brothers stock price is at an all-time low. $10 to $11 every day, every week, every month. It doesn't go any higher than that. They get lucky if they hit $12. And you can even say, oh, well, things aren't looking too pretty for Disney right now. Yeah, but the biggest difference with Disney is they're a bigger company and they have more things they can fall on. If it's not Marvel, they have all their OG Disney stuff. They have all the Disney princesses and all the cartoons and animation. They have a massive theme park they can bring to the table where they get more money from that as well. They don't just need to focus on Marvel. Whereas with Warner Brothers and DC, what do they have to fall back on when DC doesn't work? I don't believe their comics division is in the best of places right now. The fact that we do not already under Warner Brothers have a DC theme park just seems very crazy. Or at least a Warner Brothers theme park where you got a DC section, a Lord of the Rings section, a Harry Potter section. I just can't seem to understand why they've never thought about doing this. I've been saying for years, Warner Brothers should have created a fast food restaurant called Big Belly Burger. It is a huge staple in DC Comics. Make a real life restaurant. You would get so many people interested. Every single time a new DC movie comes out, you can have a new menu item. I just can't seem to understand why that has never been a thing. Now, the main reason why I even brought up this whole Warner Brothers Paramount deal is simply because of the fact of everything I've just said here. Do they really deserve this brand anymore? There's so many things they could actually be doing with DC that just don't rely on movies. When their movies don't work, there's other things they could be doing with them that could bring in some money, some cash flow that they just don't do. And that's why if Warner Brothers got a hold of what Paramount had, I wouldn't feel like I have trust in them for any of those other brands and IPs. I don't think they would be able to handle it. If they can't even handle DC and they forget about their own IPs, how are they going to handle Paramount? There could very well be a situation that Zaslav is simply just doing this because, yes, he is trying to find a buyer for Warner Brothers, but he's just making it known that, hey, we're searching. If you're interested, come give us your best bid. Since Hollywood also doesn't seem to mind about monopolizing anything, considering Disney owns so many different studios and brands, what could happen is Warner Brothers would then eat up Paramount, and then since it has been rumored for over the past 2 to 3 years now, and a lot of people do think it's gonna happen, Universal could then sweep in and then eat up Warner Brothers and Paramount. I personally still think at the end of the day, Universal is going to gain control of Warner Brothers and DC. But there are just so many moving pieces at this particular moment, and there are so many what ifs and interesting questions that need to be answered. And basically, the point of this video is Warner Brothers and DC, particularly Warner Brothers, they need to be feeling the heat. And I do think a move is coming sooner rather than later. We see how their most recent DC films have done. We see how they're treating this final Aquaman movie. There is no doubt in my mind that Warner Brothers has a very tarnished reputation in the industry today. There's even rumors and words of people who specifically do not want to go into production for their films over at Warner Brothers, so things are just not going good for them in any way. I am in a particular situation where I would much rather see what another studio can do for DC rather than have to suffer what Warner Brothers has been doing to this brand for so damn long. They've had so many different chances and they keep blowing it. So now, guys, let me know in the comments down below what you think of this entire situation. What did you think of Aquaman 2 if you saw it? What do you think of this Warner Brothers and Paramount merger? Do you think it's going to happen? Do you think they're going to go somewhere else? What do you think is going to happen as a whole? But that is all I have for you on this one, everyone. So until next time, I will talk to you all very soon.